Hello, hello. Happy Monday, January 26th, 2026. How is everybody? I am, good afternoon, Hans. Who have we got over on YouTube here? Gary, Juicy, Russell, Gabriel, happy Monday. Gary's bragging he's got the air conditioning going on today. Of course, he's on the other side of the world, so that's good too. How's everybody doing? Everybody all right? It's been a crazy weekend, and just glad to be here. And it's been a busy morning. And here we are, ready to repair pens. I've got some customer repairs that came in. And got some ordering done today. The storm there fizzled out. You're glad you didn't have to get your generator. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Well, what was cooking? I figured I'd hear from you if something went south, so to speak. So I'm glad that's good. Oh, thanks for being a force of good nature. Hey, McPadusi. I gotta step away. I got a pen. I got a pen. I gotta show you. Hang on. I can't have the show today without the pen I got in trouble with last week. That Lisa was, so for whatever reason, Lisa, when she does her grocery store pickup, she can't use her credit card or debit card, and so she always uses mine and then just pays me back. And then she saw that there was a charge from eBay. Not that I was really hiding it, but I sort of really wasn't just going to tell her. I mean, I guess it's kind of the same thing, but she doesn't collect anymore, so it's really not, it's not her thing. I'm not going to tell her about every single pen I get, because she's just not gonna, doesn't understand, doesn't get it, and that's fine. So I wasn't going to tell her, and she found out, and I was nervous because it was actually scheduled to be delivered on Saturday. Yeah, surprise. It was scheduled to be delivered on Saturday, and that was already going to be a problem because, she's here and she would get the mail every other day of the week. I get it, and no big deal. So I sit down, and Friday she's got off because it was such bad weather. It was a high of minus 17, both Friday and Saturday. That was the high for 2 days, was minus 17. That's not the wind chill. That's the actual temperature. And so, it was so cold that I had the car on my trickle charger. And Thursday morning it fired right up, and Friday morning it said, I don't think so. Because the garage is about 10 degrees warmer, 10 or 12 degrees warmer than it is outside. It's not attached to the house. It's separate from the house, so it's not that much warmer. But it would not start, so I had to put it on. I have a regular charger, a 50 amp charger, and I put it on that. And so I had to put it on for 10 minutes and finally got the car started, and that was fine. It was, been on the trickle charger all the weekend. It's been fine. But I sit down in the morning. I'm going to have my cup of coffee. And Lisa goes, so, what'd you buy? Yeah, it is. It's not like I'm buying pens, a set of food, beer, or rent. Yeah. Yeah, buying pens instead of beer probably, yeah, I mean, that's a horse apiece, I suppose. The cup of coffee make my back stronger. Yes, Spicy, how are you? And rent, thankfully, we don't, we own I tell you what, man, I understand. Jason, good afternoon. You gotta run to the mail to get an oversized balance and bring it back. You're on the down low, yeah. You don't ask about video game purchases if you're not asked about the pen purchases. Yeah, okay. I understand all those people who own their own house and they don't have a mortgage, and I didn't understand it for a while, and I'm thinking, man, that must be really nice. And I tell you, it is as nice as they say. To not have to make that mortgage payment every month is pretty awesome. So, but yeah, it was one pen. I'll show it in a minute. It was less than $100, including shipping and tax, because eBay's got to charge you tax now. And oh well. Everything else I get super duper cheap. Right? I buy in lots of hundreds. Less than 100 flies outside the radar of your home. Yeah. Normally it would. She never checks my bank account, but she happened to, and that happened. So it's a cool little pen. Actually, there was about like 3 pens I was looking at that all ended at the same time. It was maybe not the one I would have preferred out of the group, but it's kind of an unusual piece, and you don't see them very often, and I do kind of like them. So, the other ones I'll probably find with a little bit more regularity. But that's it. If you place an order with me, packages went out this morning, except for like literally two that had bottles of ink. I'm going to wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think we're up. Today, the high is like 6. So, I mean, if you think about it, it's like 11 degrees warmer than it was the other day, 2 days ago, which under normal circumstances would be like a heat wave. But, let's get this out of the way. Those are the pens we're going to work on today, by the way. So here it is. It's very small. What is that? 4 inches, 4.5 inches, maybe. Little gold-filled ring top. Nice pattern. It is really pretty nice. There's a little tiny ding, happens to be, I mean, you got to look for it. Where is it? Oh, there's a little tiny ding right here, which happens to be right in the, you can kind of see it. Around a couple dings in the imprint, but that's no big deal. But nice gold fill over the section. And this is an Edison. This is another Petersburg, Virginia Edison from the 1920s. Interestingly enough, this one is labeled on the butt end of the barrel 7T. Which is kind of cool. Nib looks good. It's offset, so we're just going to have to... and this, unfortunately, looks like some India ink. So we'll see what happens there. But the nib, I don't see any cracks in the nib so far. There's none in the hole. There's none at the base. Is it even smaller than a Kaweco? It's probably Kaweco sized. posted. Actually, I think it goes on there a little bit better than that, but it's small, but it's a tiny, tiny little pen, but they're so uncommon. That's what a Kaweco wanted to be. Yeah, I mean, the images for this were terrible. There was not a single image of the actual top of the nib. So I did confirm that the nib actually did say Edison on it. It was worth the money, no doubt. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Do I wish it was a full-size Edison? Yes. But it's, it's nice to, how do you say that, Hunt? It's nice to want. It's really in good shape. It's really, I just love this gold fill over the section. It's just so sweet. It's nice. Little lever filler. But anyway, that's what I got in trouble for. And it's definitely worth it. It's worth getting in trouble for. Getting a little grief. It didn't get in trouble. She didn't care. And again, it was less than 100. I mean, it was less than 90. It was $89. There isn't many more like that one though. Yeah. Hope that's a great writer. How could Lisa not love that? She just, she's grown out. I mean, we've both been doing this now since, I think Lisa started a year before me. She started in 97. I started in 98, if memory serves. So, we're pushing 30 years, 28, 29 years, doing this. And, things change. Your interest changed, and maybe you don't like it as much as you used to, or you've got, and Lisa's not a collector anymore. She used to be. She likes what she likes, and she uses what she uses. And I think, and I've seen this now in the past year with a couple of folks, they've changed jobs, and they really can't use a fountain pen as much as they used to. Or Lisa has a situation where she has to give her pen to customers, but she's not going to give them a fountain pen, and she's not even going to give them a good ballpoint. I mean, I made her actually it's a pretty nice jotter. I mean, of all things, metal threaded jotter, but that's what she uses in the office to take all her notes and and give the customer. So if it gets stolen, it doesn't get back to her. It's not a big deal. But yeah, and my former manager, Dave, he hardly writes with fountain pens at all anymore, because everything he does is, he has no use for it. He's writing with ballpoints on contracts and things like that. And it's not part of his daily life as much as it used to. So she's fallen out of that phase. She has a few pens that she likes, and she's good with that. So me, I'm interested in the history, and this company is pretty fascinating. How they turned from being manufacturers of great pieces, really nice pieces, to being one of the lowest of the third tier pens. And I'm glad the company changed names. Because it would be depressing to say, okay, well, this is the better Edison, not the crappy Edison. That's why you gave Lisa the rollerball adapter for the Schaefer. Yeah. Sometimes you wish you were, I mean, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to resack this today, and then I'm going to put it next to my other Edisons. But what a nice grouping that is. Oh, hang on. Yeah. You set it right there, and it's fine. Ryan? Hey, thanks. You too. So anyway, that's my find for the week. I do a little search for these every once in a while. They don't come up very often. Usually I buy every one that I see, and I think there's maybe 2 occasions where I think I passed on, or one. And I know there's at least one occasion where I passed on one, but that's, it is what it is. All right, so what do we got this week? Let's see. I got this 1911 Standard. Got some scratches on it. I think we'll just micro mesh it up. Clean it up and be ready to go. We'll do the Edison. We're going to finish up this this Waterman that we were working on last week. We can put that together. And to complete the rest of this weird set, I've got a Lucky Curve that I apparently is not feeling very well, so we're gonna diagnose that. And we've got a pastel Esterbrook. So I'll clean up my bench here a little bit. So really quite a group of pens. And I don't use fountain pens as much as I used to either. I changed the way we do our invoices here at the shop, and I now have them on paper that is just, it's receipt paper. It's just not possible to write on. But the financial benefit and the ease of making it happen far surpass me having to ink up a pen and put a, whatever in it every day. So, although I will confess, I got out a TWSBI 580 that I hadn't inked in months, and it wrote up right away. So, that was just the other day. So we'll start out with the Waterman. We'll put it together. And then we'll tackle the rest. Did I watch the Tour Down Under? I've been watching. I'm real annoying about watching cycling if it's on TV. I watch every minute of every race. So I'm still on stage 1, I think. I don't much care to watch time trials. They're kind of boring. So I kind of, after watching 130 of 140 riders, I said, okay, I get the idea. So I'm on stage 2. I'm on stage 2. So I watch, and I only watch it, to be fair to Lisa, I only watch it while I ride. So the more I ride, the more I can watch. And it's usually 6 days a week anyway, so if it's a Grand Tour, if it's the Giro or the Tour de France or the Vuelta, then maybe I will watch it in the evenings if I'm behind. But otherwise, I don't punish Lisa with with that nonsense. So I did, and unfortunately, I try really hard not to look ahead, but that's just impossible if you're trying to read the news. You always end up seeing something, and so I got an idea what happens for several several stages. That pastel is yours. Yeah, it sure is. My I have a niece whose name is Cassie, so I saw that and I thought, oh, that's cool. All right. Well, since you're here, have I ever seen an everlasting? Yeah, it's one of those third-tier jobs. Yeah, I was a little surprised that 580 wrote because it was it's a stub too. It probably been 4 months. It appears that there's a fountain pen that could handle the solvent-based marker refill ink that could work on that plasticized receipt printer paper. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I miss not being able to write on a receipt with a different color of ink each day, but the benefits far outweigh the disadvantages to my new system. There's less waste. The receipt paper is, I mean, it's pretty inexpensive. No laser toner, none of that stuff. No 8.5 by 11s. I mean, we were going through reams of paper. What does this look gunked up? I might soak this one. Not that I want any pen to be damaged, but I definitely don't want this one to. All right. All right, so before I take this one apart, oh yeah. Oh, that's interesting. We've got ink in the barrel. Yeah, so this guy needs a new sack. All right. We'll get these guys started, and then we'll start working on writing with that guy there. Happy Not Deep Freeze Monday. You know it, Dustin. Don't you know it? I'm ready for this 2 weeks of minus crap to be over with. It's one thing if you don't have to go anywhere and you can stay home. But when you actually got to be somewhere, yeah, I know, I know it's a complaint people have had about the YouTube videos. If I'm gonna have a thumbnail, it's got to be that way. Because because I don't have time for, I got to have something in advance. I don't know what I'm going to be working on every day. You're not the first, or maybe you are the. I've had somebody else complain too, but I don't know what I'm going to work on every day. And if I don't have a thumbnail to begin with, then people complain that I don't have a thumbnail. So, you just got to kind of look. Sorry, that's the best I got. I mean, because some days it might be, it could be 10 different pens. I'm not going to put that on a thumbnail. So we never know what we're going to do in advance. Looking forward to your vacation. Should be nice in Arizona. Yeah, well, you got to deal with this cold for another 3 days. Yeah, bring on the 20s. Although the photos on the video should have the day on them, so you should be able to sort by that. That should be easy enough to see at the bare minimum. You bought a Weedlick Simplo filler with hard rubber with gold-filled bands. Interested to get my thoughts on Weedlicks. I like Weedlicks. Um, I got a great story about how I acquired one once. I literally bought one. I don't know if I told this story. Um, Late to the show. Hey, Ronald. Your polishing products got a shout out from Doug Rathburn up in Calgary. Ah, great. Mr. Inquiring Minds himself. Nice. I once had a guy come up to me at a show. This was 10 years ago, at least. And he says, well, I wondered if you're interested in buying, did you buy pens? I said, well, yeah, absolutely. He took out of his pocket 35 millimeter photographs of his pen collection. So, if you can imagine, taking pictures with the camera and then developing the film and bringing it to a pen show so you could sell your pens. And I'm looking through it. I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. That's all right. That's like stuff that I could buy. I could use this. And I go through and then I see this Weedlick matchstick filler with the gold-filled filigree overlay. It's outstanding. It's really super cool. Slip cap. It's super great. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm interested in these. Where do you have them? Like, well, they're out my truck. So this is, I don't know what day this is, but this was at the Detroit Pen Show, back when it was at the Met. If anybody's old enough to remember the Met Hotel, which was really a piece of work. It was not the nicest hotel. It was like $59 a night, and it was just awful. You were greeted by bed bugs when you walked in, that kind of thing. Holes in the wall, doors that fell off, holes in the carpet. It's maybe one of those high-class hotels that charges by the hour. Yeah. This was a place. The No-Tell Motel with the coin-operated bed. Yeah. Yeah, the Detroit show was there for a number of years, and they tore the hotel down, and then that was that. Guy comes up to the table, he's got the pictures. I say, great, where are they? They're in the car. They're in the truck. It's pouring rain out. I go to Lisa and said, I got to go. I got to buy some pens. It's a reasonably, I say reasonably busy for Detroit, because Detroit was never really that busy when it was at that hotel. But, leaving Lisa with, and we might have even had 7 tables at that show. And so I go out in the rain to the back of this dude's pickup truck to buy pens. And he's got oh, what do you buy? Pen magazines? Oh, what about these? You have boxes? All said and done, I don't remember what I paid. I don't remember what I bought. All I remember is I bought this Weedlick matchstick filler with the wrong nib, mind you, the wrong nib. But alas, it was a filigree Weedlick. I probably didn't pay, after all was said and done. Probably didn't pay $150 for it, but it was a cool pen. I later did find a Weedlick and Simpson nib, and I swapped it in. Restored it. It had a crack in the section, but I would never, ever use it. Definitely not with the pusher that was on the filler that was on the top of the cap. I mean, you know, those things break off all the time. But yeah, I bought pens out of the back of a truck in the middle of the rain. You get all sorts of stuff in the back of the truck. It was unreal. It's actually a hotel called the No-Tell Motel in Tucson. You drive past it. Yeah, it looks exactly. Yeah, this was. In fact, it was so bad one year. And Lisa and I decided we were always very frugal. I always say we're frugal. We wouldn't spend a lot of money. You know, I mean, I would see there was this one guy that used to be on the circuit in the hobby, and he was kind of a whiner. He'd just whine and complain about everything. I'm like, oh, it's cost a lot to go to a pen show. Yeah, it costs a lot to go to a pen show. But he would also, like, you know, I told him, I said, you gotta quit your complaining. I said, you know, number one, the show hotel is never the cheapest. So if you're looking to save money, don't stay at the show hotel. Stay somewhere else and drive. If you're driving anyway, what the heck's the difference, right? And then he would, you know, he complained because he would go out to dinner and he'd go out to all these fancy places. I'm like, you know, I bring sandwiches. I bring a granola bar for lunch. I mean, you know, you don't have to make it a $4,000 extravaganza, you know, business expense, whatever. You still got to pay for it. But we decided one year we were going to stay overnight, get a good night's sleep, and then drive home the next day. We would spend the extra $59, and normally, you know, it's not expensive, but normally we wouldn't do that. It's close enough we could turn around at the end of the day and drive home. We'd be home by 2, 3 in the morning, and you know, that would be that. But we paid the extra, and we're trying to sleep, and there was a big party in the room next to us, and finally we got up and said, well, let's just go. Like, it was like 3 in the morning, and we just left. I think we got home at 8 or 9 in the morning. The one time we splurge. They were playing Walk Like an Egyptian. I mean, I dig the song, but not at 2 in the morning. All right, let's see. Yeah, and there was a Weedlick that ended yesterday. Let's see this. I'm gonna dump it. Maybe we're talking about the same one. You missed on the plain one, so you bought the gold fill one at a higher price. Happy to have got it. Yeah. You'll never regret having paid more for something that's really nice. I wanted the Century, and there was a Parker #1 that was really nice. That went for like $257. But, that was the thing. I wasn't going to spend a couple $100. That was not in my budget. $75 was. A little bit of shipping. Now, if I was buying $250 pens, Lisa might have had something to say. It's moving. It moved that far. But you heat it up, and I'm heating metal, so it's really hot. And the section's really short. That's when you use a section pliers. When the section is so small, or it's metal like that. This might actually be, it looks like this is a metal. A metal barrel and not an overlay over hard rubber. That's pretty weird. Thank you, Attilo. Attilio, sorry. Yeah, I was not expecting this. This is a metal barrel. The section is looks like it's hard rubber with a gold sleeve over it. So that being said, I'm surprised this isn't any more damaged than it is, because it's just not much going on here. Wonder if somebody else made it for him. Yeah, it's completely different than every other Edison that I have. A marked number on the barrel. That's a first. And this is my third overlay, but this is the first one that's just a metal barrel. That's just so weird. Lever fillers are fun to restore, but vacuumatics scare the crap out of you. Yeah, they can. Sometimes they're all right. Sometimes they're super easy. You know, and you can, bam, you can be done with the vacuumatic in minutes. Okay, that cap looks much better. Nib is still soaking on that. Nice example. No cracks. Nice and clean. Okay. So now what I need to find, believe it or not, what I don't have yet, is an all black, whether it be plain or chased, hard rubber Edison. I've got them in mottled. Red, but no black. Boy, what a weird feed. You know what I'm gonna do? That was like really very hard. The vac filling unit ejector set. This set here This is worth the money. So worth the money. I don't actually use this little bit at the end here for scraping the seat. I've tried, yeah, but just to have something that's the right size, and particularly this one for 51s. You know, it's worth the money. I'm going to let this soak in some Dr. G's here. And so our litmus here is, we can see on the nib at the top and on the sides. And in the bottom, if we look carefully inside the feed channels, it looks like India ink. So we're going to just dump that in there. And let that soak for a little bit. And that hopefully maybe will soften up. If that is India ink, it'll soften it up and give me a better chance of knocking that out. All right. Recommendations on a knockout block like that. Yeah, whatever. I mean, the beauty of this is a knockout block you can make yourself, you know. I'll probably find a solid gold Edison next. Plain black will remain elusive. I'm certain that's the one that I recall passing on. Was a black hard rubber one. You could almost make this yourself. And if it were me, I would. I've seen one that's slightly taller than this. I would want it slightly taller than this. And this is. Let me measure it here. You know, whatever pen tooling has or whatever. I know some people make them out of wood and then they put a little metal. You definitely want the top to be metal because you're going to be banging on it. This is, what is this, 2 inches? 2 inches tall. I would prefer a 3-inch tall block. If I ever see one, I'm going to buy one. Because you occasionally do run into very long feeds that are more than 2 inches long. They're just huge. So 2 inches at a bare minimum. But yeah, just drill multiple different size holes. I use, you know, you can tell which ones I use most often, and they're right in here. Like those 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, maybe 6. And I've never used that one. I could get by on half of these or less, you know. I tell you what, Hans, we're looking in Baltimore for sure. Let's see what we find. I have confirmed. It is official, double secret probation official. I booked my hotel room for Baltimore, and I bought my VIP ticket today. Unfortunately, all the rooms in the hotel block are sold out at the $139 a night price. But the website says you just call Bert and he'll transfer it to that rate or something. All right, if I were a... There it is, it's on the ground. All right, let's grab some sacks here. And we know that needs 16. You need something to look for too? No clue what you want? Well, you got to tell me so I know when I'm looking. I'm sure we'll do a pass or two together, but I'm going to go with 16 on that. Of course, you know, I came home from Ohio with a hand engraved Conklin crescent, so you know, I wasn't expecting that at all. I guess I got to put that J-bar in, don't I? I'm just going to stand this up. I'm going to stand it up in the Dr. G's and see if it... I think the staining on the threads is pretty much as clean as it's going to get. But we'll give it a few seconds in there. Have I heard anything about the Tag submarine pen? No, I have not. I'm afraid to ask. Yeah, we got a little bit on there. Is this Tag as in Tag Heuer? Oh, $100 Amazon pen? You want a green modeled hard rubber pilot? You'd probably die of shock if you saw one in Baltimore. Are we playing that game? Because if we're playing that game, I'll tell you what I'm looking for. And neither one of us will find either one. I guarantee it. I'll give you two, because one's a pencil. Actually, both of them involve pencils. An Esterbrook gold-filled mechanical pencil from 1934. It looks like a Maybe Todd. It's got Maybe Todd style clip. I was once offered one for like $1,500 or something, and I just like, yeah, no, we're not going. It's now worth $1,500. I don't like where this sack is. Sack is sticking out here. If we're playing the impossible pen game, then yeah. That or the Esterbrook duograph. That's my true definition of a grail. Boy, it doesn't want to. There we go. Actually, I should have that conversation with David Nishimura and see if he still has the nib. He used to have a nib for one. That's the closest I've seen to anybody ever having that pen. So we know the nib exists. There'll be two of those in Baltimore. 500, and you'd have to really think. Yeah, I mean, and that's the problem, right? At 500, I wouldn't buy it. That's the problem. I don't buy pens for $500. It had to be a trade or something. Um, I just couldn't see myself doing it. Do I have a link to one? No. All I have is it's like literally the first image on my phone, and it has been like since I don't know iPhone 3, and I've had iPhone since iPhone 1. Of an ad from the American Stationer in 1909, I believe it is. And there's a drawing of one. Oh, you're replying to Hans. Yeah, okay. He probably has a picture of one. Okay, so this is softened up. I can actually scrape it off with my fingernail. Yeah, arguably the Pilot would be cooler than than the Esterbrook. So, yeah. Although the red, green, and black mottled hard rubber Sailor I saw one day at a show in LA was a sight to behold. I really need a punch that's in between sizes. Waterman 7 pink nib for you? Yeah. I had a chance to get one once. In trade. Do you ever go to shows outside of the USA? I don't. Would love to attend the Madrid show someday. I hear that's a good one. This scares me because this is really, really hard. So what I'm going to do, the first couple knocks were pretty easy. But now that I've got it a little bit further out, I'm going to drop it in there again. We'll let it sit for just a little bit. Problem is this, while this is wide enough, the end is hollow to work with a breather tube. So it's... And when they're that hard to get out, that means they're going to be hard to get in. Unless there is something really nasty holding it in. And that's what I'm hoping is the case. Yeah, that's a that's a good looking tray right there. I need to find a nib for my my early Namiki. I forget what we said. Nib needs to go in that pen. All right, Gary. Have a good day. 111 degrees Fahrenheit? Rager. You realize that's like 120 degrees warmer than it is here. Common compared to the pen I described. What, the Sailor? Yeah, that was a rare bird. I took a picture of it. I got a picture of it somewhere. But it wasn't right. And that was the problem. That was the big problem for me. And I'm willing to accept pens with issues as long as they're all there. But there was like some weird thing, like it didn't have the right cap, or it was just the cap and it didn't have the right barrel. I mean, it was too much not there for it to be a, $500-$600 pen, you pay $100 for the cap or something, and that's about my limit. All right. Yeah, I wonder if I can do like a quick 3-minute search here. It was very early one year in LA. I wonder if my phone can tell me when I was at a pen show. Well, I thought you could. You could do it by location, but I guess not. 2015, maybe this was the year. Nope. Well, I'll find it someday and I'll take a picture of it. I'll show you guys. It was funny too because it was one of those like I talked to somebody and they said, "Oh, you gotta talk to so and so," and it might have been Stan. Anyway, talk to so and so. He's got a green hard rubber Esterbrook, or a green hard rubber Sailor. I said, well, yeah, I got to see that. And so I go find him, and he sits there and goes, yeah, I think I got something like that. It's like red and green, maybe. And I'm like, oh, shit. I said, said, you do, oh, yeah, well, I'll go home tonight and I'll look for it. Maybe I'll bring it in tomorrow, he said. Like, I don't know if it's for sale or what, but I just want to see this stinking thing. And he's just all like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I got it. Maybe I don't. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like I was asking him to bring me a cobalt blue Esterbrook J. I want to see it, But like quite possibly one of the hardest to find sailors ever. And he comes, he does, I think he brought it back the next day. Your money would have been ready. I think he brought it back the next day, and I went to see him, and I took a picture of it, and I don't remember if he offered it to me for sale or not. I don't remember the specifics. I remember thinking, yeah, I'm gonna get in deep doo-doo for buying something that's not quite all there. And I'm not certain, but that may have been the year I ended up buying a red and a green ribbed Sailor 1911. I got both the red and the green that year, which was a pretty, and I got them for the right price. I'd been hunting them for a long time. Boy, this is a nice nib. This is the way to go. I mean, I know the other ones, the greens and the reds, are pretty cool, but black's not going to crystallize and fall apart on you. Yeah, see, the thing is, I've never actually spent a ton of money on pens because I get everything at wholesale or less, or it's, the leftovers of a huge group buy that I sell off to make money. So for me to spend $500 on one pen is like, I mean, like, it better do my shipping in the morning to justify that. I just don't do that and never spend that. I mean, like, almost never spend over 200 on the pen. And it's kind of a fun game, actually, because you can really, when you net it out, you can really get a lot for 200 or less. Yeah, you spend some money on pens, but I usually sell a lot before or after to make it work. Yeah. Yeah. And that's how I do it. I mean, back when I had a job and was making decent money, and before Lisa, I remember, talk about getting busted. I got home from Chicago Pen Show, and this is an example of, if you spend too much, sometimes it's okay. I had come home from the Chicago Pen Show, and I had a buddy that I worked with who was also into pens. who knew my then wife. Your collection gets smaller when you buy expensive pens? Yeah. And there was an auction on, and he was following stuff on eBay that I was following, and so he knew what I was bidding on. And there was an auction for a modeled hard rubber Relief 314 made by Wirt. Wirt made nib. Wirt vented feed. There was something wrong with it. I forget what the situation was, but it was like 90%, 95% it was correct. The barrel and the cap were good. There was something maybe with the nib that wasn't quite right. It was the wrong nib, I think. Wasn't a huge deal because you could find the nib, but you could sort of find the nib, but you can't find the cap in the barrel ever. Never. And I think I spent like $750 on it. I mean, I went so over the top to win the auction. And my friend who blew the bro code and said something to my wife at the time about, wow, Brian got that pen for $750. You can't believe it. How cool. Yeah, it was not cool. Yeah, it was definitely not cool. I'm like, dude, you can't do that. You know how much shit I got in for that? It was funny, though. It's funny now. And actually, what happened is there was something wrong with the listing, and when I got it, it wasn't. On a slight technicality, I was able to get like $200 back. So, I mean, it was only $550 or something. I made good money back then. There was no reason to not allow me to spend some money. But yeah, he told my wife, hey, Brian got that pen for $750. Can you believe that? What? He did what now? Let's just say that never happened again. He never mentioned a single pen purchase that I made after that point. We're still friends. Actually, I spent some time with him New Year's Eve. He and his wife. I got to remind him of that story, though, next time I see him. But yeah, it was a super, super duper rare pen, and I mean, I had to have it. Never seen another one since. At any price. Oops. I'm going to spin the cap out here. It was also around the same time. That's like some of the prototypes you bought. You'll never see another. Yeah. Around the same time, actually a little bit after. I remember, I've told this story before, I'm sure. I would call him Gary Lair for some reason. And I called him up, and this is how the conversation started. I'll never forget this. It's just so funny. Hey, Gary, this is Brian. How's it going? Hey, Brian, $1,000 Esterbrook. What? What are you smoking? What's going on, buddy? $1,000 Esterbrook. You got $1,000 Esterbrook. So what? He proceeds to sell me. This is classic Gary. He proceeds to sell me this pen, which for some reason is no longer $1,000 by the time I commit to it. A couple days later, it's now $1,200. And he puts me on a. I'm like, Gary, I want it, but there's no way. There's not a chance in hell I'm going to get you $1,200. I mean, there might have been shipping too, believe it or not. I don't remember. Maybe it was just 1,200 straight. I can't remember. But he says, well, look, we can do a payment plan for you. So I did a payment plan with Gary Lair for $400 for 3 months for this Esterbrook. It was sterling silver overlay on black hard rubber. It was outrageous. There's not another one like it. It was funny. $1,000 Esterbrook. Says who? Wish I had that pen. Gary Lair. He spent half as much time trying to sell me pens as he did trying to flirt with my wife, then, we'd have been in good shape. Let's see. I'm just going to give this a little tap. We'll see if this... So I put it on my finger to see if it's draining anything good out. And it is. But Gary had that way about him, he would just... You look at him and you go, okay. Yeah, he was a born singer. And the way he did it too, it'd be like, he was definitely the type that he didn't care whether he sold it to you or not. He really didn't. But that was what made it work, because you're like, oh. Yeah, he knew he was going to sell it. He was going to sell it to somebody. It didn't matter. There was no loyalty to me. Not that there needed to be, but there was no loyalty on either side. If you wanted it, here it is. You're on the phone. You can have it. I thought it was very generous that he offered me the 3 payment plan. I said, I'll give you $400 today. The old 30, 60, 90, as we used to call it in the music industry. Need to look at this a little closer here. I'm going to put on my... Yeah, there's some super thick stuff going on here. Then there was the one time he tried to sell me a bunch of Esterbrook stuff. And we just couldn't come to agreement. Well, it's not that we couldn't come to agreement. He just didn't negotiate at all. I made him an offer and he said, yeah, I don't think so. And then that was it. That was the end of the deal. Like, and it was a bucket full of stuff too. And I'm like, and it wasn't all pens. It was like a lot of ephemera and stuff like that. And I was just like, no counter, no, nothing. And the funny thing is I had this stuff for, try this again, for months because I accidentally got stuck with it. He was all right. He always had a smile on his face. I like Gary. I got a little movement there. All right, now we get to see what caused all that mess. Here's the back side of the nib. Drop that in there. Better head out. Good luck. All right. Sounds good. Have a great night. Definitely got some India ink on the back here. Okay. Get the section cleaned out here. It's got a little bit of crap still in it. Cleaner it is, the easier it's going to be to get that nib and feedback in. You're wondering if there was some India ink in the Esterbrook section you finally got the nib color out of. It's one of the more recent LJs with the longer section and a different clip or lever. Yeah, I mean, you know, I've seen it once. I've seen it, 100 times. Between the section being slightly shrunk and the ink, it took a lot of soaking. Yeah. Those later ones can sometimes be a real pain in the butt. Yeah, that plastic was terrible. Most of those plastic were terrible. And some people will laugh, but it's actually quite a challenge to complete a set of those pens that don't suck. You know, really nice colors. I mean, forget nice color. They're all kind of, kind of bland. But find ones that don't have warpage, that are, good quality examples, is a real challenge. If you're talking about the ones with the USA clip. Yeah, it came in a lot of those. You want to go on your way. Yeah, well, that's and that's how you collect those. You know, they come in a lot. You wouldn't normally get them. Hey, but here we are. Probably the same could be said for Esterbrook CX100s. Any of those late lever fill variants of that particular model. I forget what the model number is called. Almost nobody knows what it is because was so late. M2s are okay. I like M2s. Contrary to public opinion, I like A101s a lot. I think they're great pens. Extremely underappreciated. I'm sorry, CA101s, not A101s too, but all right. Okay, so it fits nice and snug in there. Fins are nice and clean. So if you've got the Dr. G's and you're contemplating what you're going to do with it, don't dismiss using it to clean out And hard rubber from India Ink. It works great for it. Beautiful. Much nicer. Much, much nicer. Polish that section up, and boom, we are golden. Well, that looks great. It's a tiny sack. There's not much to it. But it's very nice how reasonably easy that went back in the section compared to how hard. And you can tell when you're knocking out a nib and feed from a section. If it's going to move, it gives you a kind of a nice dull thud, and when it doesn't, it's a much higher pitched noise, and you can just feel it. You can hear it. I'm not actually 100% certain that this is the correct feed for it. Because it does have a slot for a breather tube. But it is a flat feed of the right size and what I would expect from something in the 1920s. So, all right. Put this away. Now, before I start polishing this sailor, I'm going to actually put the nib unit in the ultrasonic. I'm going to clean this button up here first real quick. All right, so I got a 1911 standard here. It's a little bit unusual. Might not actually be the standard model because it's got that different clip. We sailors prefer the unpolished look. Thank you. Well, Colin, and your pen went out today, so you should have got a tracking notice on it. This particular one I did not show on the podcast on Friday. Because, well, number one, there's nothing outrageously special about this. So the nib is a standard hard medium. What makes this interesting is it has as a standard, it has this double cap band configuration, which you typically only see on the larges. It's got this more plain clip, which was on, I forget which model. So this could be that other model, but that other model that I'm thinking of had the matte. Someone will say it and I go, oh yeah, that one. It had kind of like a matte finish on this. It's a little bit more simplified sword clip. But it's got some scratches on it. And I just want to clean that up before I make this one available. It would have been great to offer this one too, but for anybody who saw the podcast on Friday, I'm happy to report, and sorry to report if you're catching it late, all of the special sailors and Ohasidos that I showed on the podcast are sold. They're all gone. So if you count yourself among the few that were able to pick one up, congratulations. If not, well, better luck next time. You never know. And the trick is to email early. Even if you're, and I hate to say this, but even if you're not 110% sure that you want it, and I always try to give the best description we can, so we don't want to manage expectations. And I try not, I try not to sell junk. I mean, I don't sell junk, but if there's an issue with something, we're going to point it out, and it is what it is. But you can always say, I don't think so. And there's a reason I don't list the prices. I don't talk about the prices on the podcast. And nobody needs to know unless you're interested. And if you're interested, great. And you can always say no, but at least you got yourself in line, because there was, and Colin, I think there were 3 people in front of you that wanted that pen. 4 counting me. I honestly think that was I like the broad nib on the other one, but I think that pen was the best one of the 5 that I showed. That was my personal favorite. But there were 3 people in front of you that wanted that pen, and they all turned it down for one reason or another. Either one person bought 2 other pens, and another person decided they didn't want it because they bought something else. You mentioned those pens on the Ink Dependence live stream Friday evening. Yeah, they're fantastic pens. They're really. I mean, I was I consider myself blessed to have been able to acquire them. And even more so that they came in that day and they were all accounted for within 24 hours, and they're all out the door as of this morning. So, but let's take a look at this one. This is the one that didn't make the podcast. It's cool in its own way, but you see those scratches on the barrel. This is more than a microgloss fix. This isn't as bad as the 1911 large I acquired in St. Louis earlier in the year. That was really, really rough. But we were able to polish that up real nice. And now that I think about it, I absolutely forgot to have my daughter photograph it today when she came in for her normal photography Monday. But that's okay. I'll remember next week. Maybe next week we'll get it in. Or I just show it on the podcast on Friday if anybody's in. It was a discontinued. It's a now discontinued 1911 large in blue. So if you remember that blue color, they had it in the 1911 standard series for quite a while. Well, they had that pen in the large as well. As well as yellow and burgundy. Yellow, blue, red, yellow. That was it. And black, of course. But then for whatever reason they discontinued them in the large, but they kept them in the standard size for a long time. You actually got busy and didn't finish the email till after the show was over. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anybody else. There were a couple of people after you too that were interested. So yeah, you know it's and I'll mention that on the podcast again when we do that. I mean, it's if you're interested, you gotta tune in and you gotta send the email immediately. For modern pen in good condition with one single scratch, is microgloss an option? Anything to reduce the appearance of one deep scratch in a sailor plastic? Well, how deep is it, right? Microgloss 5, maybe. It depends on how deep it is. You know, you certainly don't want to. I mean, I have to do this for the whole barrel, and to make this right, I've got to do all 9. Or at least 8 grits on the pads. Because otherwise it just won't be right. I was mentioning Doug Rathburn unwrapping of an order he had arrive in the mail. Oh, I think I should watch that. I won't say I wrapped it extra special, but I paid a little extra attention. Not that I don't, but because I think he wrote a note saying that something about his stream. Yeah, and so, you know, and getting back to the pen thing, if you send an email and I don't reply back, that's not always a bad thing, because I literally, I go in order. You know, the first person, and I almost, I had someone reply like immediately on one of the Naginata Togis, and I emailed them back. Here's the price. I can send you an invoice. Let me know. If not, I'll move on. And thankfully on that pen, I had two identical pens. I mean, after I cleaned them up, you couldn't tell the difference of one or the other. And he didn't get back to me for like a day, like 24 hours. I'm like, well, do I go, do I move on or whatever? But I go in order. And so if you don't hear from me right away, it doesn't necessarily mean you're out of the running. It's deep. Even the non-pro seller should have known to disclose. Oh. Yeah, that's a tough one, because if you try to, microgloss ain't going to work. It's not going to be good enough. You might be better off trying to fill it and then sand it down. But that's a whole other can of worms too, right? Because micromesh will take it out, but you're removing a little small layer of stuff on the surface. And you'll have to feather it in. I mean, you might be able to get it out just right, but then as each grit goes by, you've got to feather it out a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Now, if it's really shiny to begin with, you might not have a problem, right? What I'm worried about is sometimes you have a pen that's not quite perfectly shiny, and then you micromesh it, and then the spot that had the problem is really great, but then the rest of the pen looks bad, right? And then, oh crap, now I got to do the cap, and I got to, and all that stuff. So, anyone who's ever messed up a fresh nail polish manicure knows what it looks like for the lacquer to be pushed aside above the gouge unit, out above the gouge out. It looks like that. Interesting. But again, if the rest of it is perfect, you might have some luck with micromesh. If it's that deep, then microgloss is just not gonna do much. So I'm just trying to get it to it's fairly matte now, to the point where I can still see some of the marks, but it's not as bad. And I spent, you try to spend the majority of your time on that first pass, because it doesn't pay to think you're going to get it all out on some of the other grits, because all you're going to end up doing is polishing everything else around it. What's the best first time repair for a new hobbyist in your opinion? Get an Esterbrook. You need like 3 things, 4 things. Talc, shellac, a hemostat's a really good option in case you need to take the J-bar out and you need a sack. Anybody can do it. You've seen a lot of no-nonsense shavers out there for under $10. Well, I mean, they're cartridge pens. They're cartridge converter pens. There's not much to them. I mean, you know, slap a new cartridge in, boom, you're done. There's no repair there, you know. Oh, cosmetic repairs to barrels. Well, what you use on that, you may not necessarily use on other things. Keep in mind. When you place your next order, you're going to be ordering a J-bar and a hemostat, as this will be your first experiment. All right. What's the best first test subject to go through all the grit levels on micro? I mean, you know, it can be anything. Actually, I'm going to do something here that I should have done before, but I'm going to make a mark. So when I'm rotating the barrel, before I could, you know, when I could see the scratches, I knew where to work. But now I don't know whether I've done it or not. So that mark will tell me as I rotate it if I've come around. You have a plastic kids cup? I mean, you know, anything plastic is good. You know, those Schaefer no-nonsense barrels would be perfect for this kind of thing. They usually get pretty beat up. You know, and then when you're done with all 9 grits of the micro mesh, do microgloss 5 and microgloss 1, and if you've done it right, you should be able to, you know, I mean, they're just, it's outrageous. This is probably what I'm going to do to this. Yeah, see, now I come around to the front. Now I know I've gone through at least once. Wipe it down. I need to rinse this cap. Oh, I've got the nib. I was going to say, what do I have in the ultrasonic? I got the nib for this pen. Make a pass and then wipe it down. And so now, to give you an idea, so this is 1500 and 1800. And those lines you see will go away with another pass as I get finer and finer. But those big marks are no longer there. You no longer see them. And this is here just to protect this trim ring. So plus it also gives me a little handle. It's laborious and time consuming. And also what I try to do is not try to drip it on the other pens, but if I'm doing it in this this fashion, I also move so I'm not just going in the same spot on the pad. Flip it over, flip it the other way. I use it wet. You know, flip it on the other side. So you don't wear a bald spot on your pad. And you should be able to use these for a long time. I replace mine and I use them often. I replace mine about every 3-4 years. And oftentimes I will, because you have a tendency to use the outside the most, I'll cut them down until I get to, a little tiny bit. And then I go, okay, stop being cheap and buy new pads. Okay, let's try that. Now, there's a high possibility I'm going to get to the end and I'm going to go, okay, well, I can still see a scratch. In which case, then you probably got to start all over. But if past experience is any indicator, by the time I'm done with this, you won't be able to tell the difference from something that's completely brand new. But you never know. This could be somebody's first sailor pen. And I want it to really be something really special for them. You tried your hand at solvent welding a cracked black PFM1 yesterday. Nervous but fairly confident the sanding polishing will be less daunting. Yeah, I saw your post. I didn't look at the pictures very closely, but I hope it works out for you. And if you get to the end and you see striations in your barrel or your part, you may be able to go back just a few grits to fix it. You may not have to go all the way back. It depends on how well you did. You know, maybe you go back to 3,600 instead of 15 or 4,000 or something. As long as we're talking sailor, this is my shameless self-promotion. If anybody is interested in getting a sailor before the price increase or the prices go up, shoot me an email. My email's on the screen. I can tell you what's in the catalog. And then if you pick something out, I can verify whether or not it is in stock and ready to ship. But prices are going up somewhere between February 1st and mid-March. I am debating one myself. But I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger yet. Summer would be a better time for me, but what sailor is my pick? I want a Pro Gear Lucky Charm. That kind of teal greeny one. I'd love one in the King of Pen. Which are still listed in the price list. But I don't think that is significantly more than this little guy here that I paid $89 for. So I don't think that one's going to get past the Minister of Finance. It's such a pretty teal pen, though. It's just really. Or I think there's a blue ebonite King of Pen too, but that's like a ridiculous amount of money. Yeah, it's a real pretty pen. And it's been in the catalog for a long time. Years. Like I can count that one. Um yeah, the blue ebonite, it's outrageous, isn't it? It's one of those pens that you could just buy and never ink and just look at it because it's just so pretty. Um Although Lisa would kill me if I didn't ink it, but um I can count the Lucky Charm, how long that's been. Um, I, I count that one in terms of number of stores I've owned, number of locations I've had since it came out. Um, like uh, one, two, three. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how long it's been out. I mean, now some of those were all, this is my fourth location since that pen came out. What that means, I don't know. Boy, when was that from? I was still on College Avenue. That was before Chicago. I was still on College Avenue in Appleton when that pen came out. Yeah, it was something. Yeah, this is turning out all right. And again, this might be a case of the cap's not perfect, but it's okay. Um, and so I think this is going to be, and caps are difficult unless you take the top clip off, and I've never had real good success in taking those off. See what I mean about good-natured Andersons can date pens from physical address to story. Well, and that's how I think too. Um, I can remember certain things by what case they were in and what and in some cases, like how I received them in inventory when we had them. Where we put them, where they were on the shelf. I mean, I remember looking on my shelf at College Avenue once and seeing 6, count them, 6 Namiki Emperors. That was a good day, or maybe not, depending how you look at it. That was one each in black and red, black and vermilion with each of the 3 nibs. But we had nowhere to put them, so I had to put the boxes way at the top of this shelf. Because the boxes are huge. Yeah, now it's coming around. It's either that or I just got notification of new 1911s, new 1911 larges that are coming out. I guess before I say anything, I really should look at the thing. I don't know if they're probably okay for public consumption. But there are 1 or 2 that have caught my eye in the new list. I'll probably talk about those on Friday on the podcast. So now I'm down to 6,000. I might skip 12 and go straight to microgloss 5. Sometimes I also remember pens and things by employees. That's a fun one. But yeah, mostly I remember them by what location we were in when I received the package. Okay, this is looking good. I think 8, skip the 12 and go straight to gloss 5. If I do it right, I won't have to touch the cap. see if this does it. Your Only Sailor is an early 70s pocket pen. Has a great medium nib on it that writes very smooth on the reverse as well if you want a fine line. So there's a little bit of area here, but I think with the little micro gloss we can get that pretty much cleaned up. Yeah, vintage sailors are tough. Some of them are really good. Some decades are really pretty awful. Sadly. On eBay, there was a vintage pen for sale, and along with the pictures, they included a clip of handling the pen, and they removed the section and the sack was intact. Then they touched the end of the sack. At the end of the sack crumbling. I don't know why people have to show that stuff. There was I noticed one yesterday. I thought that was hilarious. Was somebody was selling an Esterbrook section with an original Esterbrook sack, marked sack on it, but the sack had visible holes in it. And it was listed as for display only. It's $20. Who's going to buy that? Who's going to go, you know what? I want that for a display. I thought that was the funniest thing. I had to redo all my searches because the new modern Esterbrooks really screw up my old Esterbrook searches. I was getting nothing but modern Esterbrook SDs and niblets and all that stuff. The nooks and all that crap. Yeah, there. You think the pen was a shaver? Yeah. I don't get why people have to disassemble the pen and they show the sack and so now with that, and that was actually a combination of 5 and 1, and there was that little bit of kind of ghosting here at the end and at the top, and that really polished it up. And most of this is just residue from my cloth. So that really turned out quite nice. I mean, it took a half an hour or whatever it took here, and you guys are patient souls for watching me polish a pen for that long, but But now I feel decent about offering this pen up for sale, because now it doesn't look, you know. This one I'm just going to try with some. I really don't want to micro. You know, unless you can take the clip off, it's really tough to use micro mesh around the clip. And ideally, you want to be able to rub this in, the little pressure, until it absolutely disappears. And if you've got marks that are like more like scrape marks than scratches, then this will take it out. Yeah, the thing is, until they touch the sack, it looked to be all intact. Yeah. Well, again, unless you know the person, know their qualifications, assume you have to replace the sack. So now I keep going at it, and then you notice it's almost off, completely off the pen. Basically rubbing it in. And then I move my position on the cloth where I had it, so I make sure I get it all off the cloth. And then I'll hit it with a little buffing cloth, and it should be good to go. .454 just in time. Yeah, there's a tiny little scratch on the side of the cap, but my concern again is when you have just one little mark, you know, either you get an uneven polish or you get a wear spot if you don't do it right. I think it's really very good. It's very consistent with any used pen you're ever gonna come across. You probably do more damage damage to it in your first 90 days than it has now. All right, let's pull the nib out. This is a 14 karat rhodium plated hard medium. All right. So the sailor's good. There's a little bit of, I could tell on the page. It writes just like a new pen. You can't really see it here, but it writes how it should write. We're gonna test the Lucky Curve here tomorrow, the Edison and the Pastel Esterbrook. Did we get that? Yeah, that's pretty clean. Yeah, it's a metal cap too. So weird. Very weird pen. And we'll see what else we can come up with. All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you watching and commenting. I hope you have a good rest of your evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, whenever you're watching this. Be kind, be well, have a good one. Kimonosis. Be kind, be well, and we'll catch you tomorrow, right? Take care, everyone. Bye now.